Zotac Magnus 1 just got upgraded, and now there's also white version available. Remember, I've checked out the previous version with quite old specs. This one has got the latest specs and could be very interesting for creators. So let's check it out.
Looking for a cheap way to license your Windows? Check out Whokeys through the links in the video description. Make sure to use the code TN20 to get a 30% off. Paste the license to the activation settings and you're all done. This license is for Windows 10, but you can upgrade it to Windows 11 for free. They also offer Microsoft Office 19 license. Use the same code TN20 to get a 30% off. Check out whokeys.com in the video description below.
So we can see there's an i7-13700 CPU in there, 16 core, and an RTX 4070, which is awesome. 16 gigabytes of DDR5, that's maybe a little bit little. There's some SSD and hard drive connectors there, NVMe slots, gigabit LAN and 2.5 gigabit LAN, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.0, card reader, UHS 2. Yes, come on, that's for creators. Other ports, Thunderbolt 4, power supply is 500 watts, 80 plus platinum. Not gold, platinum. You've got some literature here. Windows image recovery key, that's helpful. We've got two Wi-Fi antennas. This time they're white. Got a power cable on one side, an EU power cable on the other side. This looks amazing. So in the front we have the power button, mic and headphone combo. Then we've got the UHS 2 SD card reader, which is amazing, super fast, like 300 plus megabytes per second. USB 3.0 front panel, Type A header and Type C header. On the back, we've got the GPU headers and then the motherboard headers on this side. So this one, I bet, is the 2.5 gigabit LAN, and this is 1 gigabit, and then you've got some USB Type A ports. They're all 5 gigabits in speed. You've got Thunderbolt 4 in here, Kensington lock and HDMI for the integrated graphics, and then we've got the GPU here, which has 3 display ports and 1 HDMI port. Power connector goes in the back, and then little fan for the power supply. Now, these antennas actually go in the back over there for your Wi-Fi, but what I want to do first is actually look inside to see what is inside. So you undo these little back screws, I remember that from last time, and what you do now is push down from here and slide back. At least it used to be like that. What's going on? Okay, that was a bit hard, but it does come when you push down and slide backwards, and it does come off. Let's have a look. Okay, here we have some fans. And as much as I remember, these are exactly the same fans as last time. We've got a little quick connector in the back here. Two 80mm fans. Then if you slide these side panels up, they come off on both sides. These are just like mesh panels, as you can see. Both sides are exactly the same. And then there's this 2-compartment design going on. There's a wall in the middle, and then one side you have the CPU and motherboard, and then on the other side you have a GPU. So the GPU can be like small, okay? Not too big of a GPU, just over 2 slots you can fit in there. Maybe just 3 slots can fit inside here, but that's about it. That's then the GPU will be against the wall here. There is actually another 8-pin PCIe adapter that's been attached here if you want to have even more power than this. But this 4070 actually has just one 8-pin, so you can have another one that's daisy chains together, but if you want to have some kind of more powerful GPU. I don't think there's a 4070 Ti or 4080 that's as small, but we can hope that maybe they'll do some smaller GPUs that might fit in there as well. But I think this is pretty much as powerful of a GPU as you can put in there. And then now on this side, everything looks very, very similar to what we had last time. So we have this heatsink fan over here, and I believe this is exactly the same heatsink as we had last time, because let me double check. I believe I still have it. I still had the cooler from last time, because remember we did this whole Noctua upgrade, better cooler, better fans in there. We upgraded it, which was pretty cool, but I kept this cooler just in case. And as you can see, it's exactly the same, looks to be exactly similar. I don't see any differences here at all. So I'm curious to see how well does it hold up in there, because previously it was struggling with the 10700 CPU i7. This time it's 13700, which is a lot more powerful, but I bet it's going to be mapped to 65 watts, which makes the performance per watt much better than on the 10700. Then in here we have this SATA port where you can put 2.5-inch SSD or hard drive, and this comes off through this in here, that little knob. You can put your SSD in there and then slot it inside there. Then we have two M.2 slots in here, and both of these are Gen 4 X4 slots. So one of them is the OS drive, which it runs the whole thing here. I think this is 1 terabyte, possibly. I am not sure which SSD this is, but looks like this is a Phison controller there, which is a very high-end controller, which is good. But there's no heatsink on it, so most likely this is gonna get quite hot. Interesting, the screw is already kind of over screwed. But the good thing is you can add a secondary M.2 in here as well as a hard drive or SSD. So you've got quite a bit of upgrade options. You've got your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antenna in here. And here's the RAM. So this doesn't take the full-size desktop RAM, but SODIMM slots, and it comes with 1 stick installed. And this is crucial. 16 gigabytes DDR5 5600 SODIMM stick, which is very interesting because this is like the base spec of the integrated memory controller RAM speed. This CPU there does like the spec is 5600 megatransfers. That's how fast the IMC goes, and this actually goes 5600 megatransfers as well, but it doesn't use XMP, which is very interesting. It uses only 1.1 volts and it's CL46, so the latency is a little bit slow, but the actual speed of the RAM is still there. Now this is easily upgradable, and I highly recommend you to do so if you are using this as a creator PC. Get more than 16 gigabytes. Now, interesting thing is DDR5 is supposed to actually kind of mimic a dual channel even if you have single stick installed. Even though this is dual channel, I still recommend getting the secondary stick, but the 1 stick performance isn't as bad as with DDR4 basically. So that's the insides. Let's put it back together and turn it on, and let's see if we can get it to boot and see what the performance is like. It went back much easier. By the way, there is a black version of this available as well, and you can buy it bare bones or with already some stuff installed. I recommend going bare bones because you usually get much better, bang for your buck basically when buying this bare bones, where you don't have RAM, SSD or GPU installed, and you can buy the GPU separately and then see which GPU is better for, the 4070. But check the prices before, because you might get a better price already, everything in there. Sometimes they cut you a deal, which might, be better to buy already things installed inside basically. Look at that. Zotac Z-Box. Okay. Windows, there we go. Ooh, look at that. Talking about 2 designs. This looks very, very cool. Actually, the black looks really cool as well now. Okay, looks like there's a lot of stuff already installed. Now, I don't think this is what it comes to you, lots of stuff installed. This is like a media unit, basically. So, looks like this might have been used already in some of the shows or something like that, because there seems to be quite a lot of stuff already here. We've got Valve open and all sorts of games and stuff installed here, which we are going to exit off. So the PC feels extremely snappy when working with it all. Programs, everything just opens, bam, 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 bam. It's absolutely amazing. Now, it looks like we're already thermal throttling here, and I haven't done anything here. So the P cores, as you can see, 2 of them like to run a little bit hot. Let's see. Well, that's interesting. Why does it thermal throttle them at 76 and 75 degrees? Actually, one of them is 84, but we shouldn't thermal throttle them because we could run them at 100 degrees, a little bit warmer. So that's interesting. As you can see, the PL1 limit has been set to 65 watts. So that's the long term. But in short term, it can boost up to 150 watts. So let's have a look how does that works. Right now, we've gone to 2 gigahertz in one of those P cores. We'll go here. Multi-core. As you can see, 130 watt instantly thermal throttling, 150 watts. It will pull it down. 5.2 gigahertz, we have gone to some of the boost clocks there. And now you can see we are at 65 watts long term, and we're not thermal throttling anymore. As you can see, the temperatures are completely fine. Look at that. Package is 63 degrees and I've got 25.9 degrees here in the room. This seems completely fine. I think we can squeeze some more performance out of this, just because the 65 watt long-term kind of TDP is very, very low, and we're about 65 degrees. We could let the CPU run a little bit hotter. So about 16,600 points. It's basically as good as a 10900K full-on desktop CPU that pulls like 290 watts, and this one much more efficient, or just slightly slower than the NUC 12 Extreme that we had on the channel with i9 12900 CPU. But I think we can push some more out from this CPU than what we have here. So it pulls in the cold air from that side and then pushes it out from the top. That's the type of, you know, thermals we have there. Now let's test the GPU as well. See how well does that hold up. Now we can see GPU is pulling 200 watts. I think it might go slightly towards on the hotter side, but because of the two kind of chamber design, the GPU heat shouldn't affect the CPU as much as when they're, you know, on the same, like underneath the CPU where all the hot air would heat up the CPU as well. Let's leave it for a few minutes and see how well does it do. So after 1 minute 40, so less than 2 minutes, our hotspot is 91 degrees. 92 degrees it's peaked, but the fans are not going at maximum. They kind of go voo and then a bit down, and voo and a bit down. Interesting, the CPU on the other side was slightly thermal throttling. So looks like we've kind of stabilized there at 77 degrees. Hotspot is 94 degrees. Slightly on the warmer side, but bear in mind we've got a 4070 there pulling 200 watts, which is quite a lot, and we've got 12 gigabytes of VRAM, which is nice for creators. What I'm going to do now is I want to see if we can actually get some more performance out of this CPU. 16,600, and here's how you can do it. So what it'll do is you're going to restart, hit delete in here, and then we can get into BIOS, entering setup. So here's what we see in BIOS. Well done Zotac for actually putting their design on the BIOS and not leaving it, you know, like blue and gray like the old-fashioned PCs. OC, enable, turbo mode enabled. You can enable all the performance calls. You can actually disable some of them if you want to. Memory profile, memory voltage adjustment. Okay, we'll leave that one. Internal graphics, it's enabled, and we can disable it if you wanted to. And I'm glad that Zotac included our non-F variant CPU in there, which means for creators we get Intel QuickSync support as well, and we don't, you know, have to only rely on the NVIDIA media engines, which is absolutely amazing. So here you can turn it off. CPU configuration. See, here we can actually control the fans as well. So CPU smart fan. What I would do is I just keep the CPU fan always at 40, maybe 35, and highest fan duty, come on, give us 100%. So basically the fan will go 100% when we go to the highest temperature. So when we hit 90 degrees, I'll put it 85 degrees. When we hit there, the fans will go 100%, which means we cool it down. So it's actually, they've gone a little bit conservative with the fan curves to make it a little bit more quieter. System smart mode, highest duty fan here again, we're gonna put it 100% when it goes to 90 degrees. And then the lowest one when it's 50 degrees is 35 degrees, okay? Okay, unfortunately, I don't see any power limitation settings in here, how I can adjust the power. So we'll see if we can do it with XTU. But the fan curves were much better, meaning that we should be getting even better performance now. Okay, let's see this. I have a feeling we're gonna get more than 16,600 points this time. Okay, still thermal throttling, 150, and then it goes 65, and it's got no problem, like 62 degrees there. But it did go to 85, and that's the highest core there, went to 85. It still has like about 10 degrees extra thermal headroom, which it would have been able to use to boost even higher. But let's have a look now. Look, the P cores are only going 2.7 gigahertz and E cores 2.3. We actually got slightly less. I wonder if there's some background tasks going. Okay, Here we go. Go to advanced view. I agree, don't show again. Okay, there we go. Here we should be able to change the PL limits, okay? I'm gonna leave the 150 watts there, but I'm gonna put this to, what, 75 watts. Let's see if this works. I'm gonna go and press apply. Interestingly, the XDU works. So now our thermal limit should be 75 there. Interesting, this hasn't changed in there. So I'll just open this again, see if it updates that. Yep, as you can see, the base now is 75 watts. Let's press start again and let's see how that acts. Thermal throttling, 81 degrees, 85 degrees, 86 degrees, 87 degrees. And now we've gone down to 74. And as you can see, we're not thermal throttling right now. 67 degrees, it's actually going down in temperature. 68 degrees, let's see if 69 degrees, okay, slightly warming up, but the fans aren't going as loud. 68 degrees, so it keeps it under 70 degrees at 75 wattage. So we have even more thermal headroom. And then look at that, our clock speeds are much higher right now. Look at this, 18,000 points. We got extra 10% performance, more than 10% performance. Maybe about 10% performance just by one flick. But I think we can take it even further. Let's try 80 watts. Now we can't do like adjust the core ratios separately. So 2 of the cores will go 5.1 gigahertz and then the rest of the 6 will go to 5.1 gigahertz and all the efficiency cores will go to there. We can make the turbo boost time window to go a little bit longer, so it boosts a little bit longer, but I'm gonna leave that at the same. So you can't adjust like the core voltages and that, like that's like set by default in there, but the PL1 limit and PL2 limit we can change. So let's go boom here and then let's have a look at this. Thermal throttling, yes, at first 86, 87, okay, and now we're going down to 80 watts, and as you can see, we're not thermal throttling at 80 watts anymore. The fans are higher with 71 degrees, 70 degrees, 69 degrees. As you can see, we've got even more thermal headroom. It peaked 71, 69, 70, so it's pretty good. Let's have a look. 19,000. I think we could push it even further. 85 watts. Bear in mind, we could wait a little bit and make it cool down even more to make the whole system to go like idle a little bit lower temperatures, but ain't nobody got time for that. So go. Thermal throttling at first. Interestingly, straight away, not after that. Okay, back to thermal throttling. And then now 85 watts. Let's see our temperatures there. 74 degrees, so we're not still thermal throttling. Now our cores are roughly going there 3 gigahertz. Almost. As you can see, 85 watts with 74 degrees package temperature. Okay, I think we can get 20,000 points as well here. Come on, let's put a 90 watt limit there now. And I'm going to put this at 55 as well. So the boost is slightly higher and then the PL1 is slightly lower, or PL2. Which one is which? Okay, let's see if we can get... Look, it's better than the Threadripper, 16-core Threadripper right now on this tiny little PC. That's impressive. 87 previously. I think we're going to go higher than 87 now. I told you! Over 20,000 points. Here we go. I think we can push it even more, and look at that, we're at 27.2 degrees in here. We can get a little bit more of performance out there, but let's take a look at our scores now. Yeah, we're getting close to the 5900X desktop CPU that pulls like 100 and something, 35 watts or something like that, flat with 12 cores. So that's quite impressive CPU performance actually, and I think we can push it even further. And now I'm gonna test it for all of the benchmarks, and then we'll talk about the benchmarks of this. So it's been quite a while actually since the last part of this video, because basically we had a bit of an issue with this Zotac PC, and I had to send it off because I didn't have time to actually configure and fix it myself. I could have done it, but just because this is Techtober, there's so many launches, so many things I need to test, so many videos. Our editing queue, if you could see that, there's about 15 videos there. So whatever I'm talking about now gets released like in a few weeks time because we just don't have time to edit it. But basically what was happening with this PC and why I wasn't able to run any of the benchmarks like Bench, Premiere Pro or any of the other things was because it was running Windows N. So did you know that there's like Windows 11 N as well, which basically is just limited features with it, and Media Pack is one of the things that kind of is missing from that one. So because this was like I think Gamescom, if any of yous were in Germany for that one, this was in there. This particular model was like set up in there for like gaming and some of the things, whatever. But when we tried to run the creative benchmarks in there, it was just not working. So I sent it back to Zotac and they fixed it. They had to like actually quite cleverly like do this thing in BIOS where you remove the actual key that links the BIOS to the Windows 11 so that you can actually install Windows 11 Home without the N. So now it's got like all the full features in there. Anyway, long story short, now I've got some of the benchmarks here and this is what we have here. By the way I was running this benchmarks is very interesting. I was using this verbatim 15-inch touchscreen monitor, which is only connected by one USB-C cable, because on the back there's a Thunderbolt 4 port, which also supports video output, which for creators might be very interesting. Let's see if we can get video output from the front port as well. No, as you can see, no signal. But through the back, boom. And that's why it's good that this is not 13700F, but this is 13700 with the integrated iGPU as well to get video output. I have flipped the screen, it's not actually upside down. It looks pretty good quality, it's like heavy, it's got metal construction. I'm quite happy about it. The only thing I don't like about it is like the brightness of this and how this sometimes isn't working with Windows. Let's see if it does now. See, as you can see, the keyboard is not showing up if I'm tapping in there. I'm not sure if there's some settings I should be setting, but naturally this is not like picking up the keyboard in here. So let's take a look at some of the benchmarks here then. We'll look at Photoshop first. And by the way, first thing I want to say is that this 16 gigabytes of RAM in here is a big bottleneck in these benchmarks. So when you're getting this one, I highly recommend getting 64 gigabytes at least for this, because you'll be seeing much higher scores. So all of these are RAM bottlenecked. To be honest, 16 gigabytes is like that borderline RAM capacity that these days, I think really anything below that is not acceptable, and 16 gigabytes is just about acceptable to get anything on. As a creator, 32 gigabytes is, I think, the minimum you should go for. But we're getting still quite good scores because the 3700H boosts quite high scores there. In DaVinci Resolve, we can run the extended as well because DaVinci Resolve is not so taxing on the RAM, and it gets quite good scores. Again, there's nothing bad to say. Solid scores from a mini PC like that, and only a 65 watt, limit what we have in there. And then in Adobe Premiere Pro, because of the iGPU, we're getting very high, long GOP scores, as you can see here, 101.1 and 177.6. That's really good for this, and that's because of the iGPU, and we can utilize Intel QuickSync to get this score done here. And this is a very good score as well. It's very good for video editing, nothing bad to say. Now in After Effects are getting crashes because the RAM capacity was actually bottlenecked. So this 16 gigabytes, like I mentioned, it was a big issue in After Effects, and it didn't even run just because After Effects needs a little bit more and it was crashing there, so that didn't work. But these are the photo and video editing benchmarks. What about 3D? Because we're running a very good GPU in there. So here's the benchmarks for the Octane bench, and as you can see, 648.4. Again, really high score. Then I also did a blended test here, and you can see that we're getting 3,139.4 points, which is absolutely insane. So those CUDA cores, RT cores, the next generation on this 40 series is absolutely incredible. The power consumption for that 4070 is incredible as well. And to get 12 gigabytes of VRAM, I'm liking that a lot. As you can see there, hardly anything is open right now, and and I'm using 30% of my RAM. So you can see whenever you're opening an application, boom, you're going to be using a lot of that. So in conclusion, what do I think about this PC? I think as long as you upgrade the RAM, I think this is a solid option, and I'm absolutely loving the design, loving the form factor. I think it's absolutely fantastic in every single way. I like that there's 2 compartments. You have actually quite a bit of upgradability still there, so you're not going to be linked in. It's easier to upgrade. Honestly, I think it's a really good option. If you want to check it out, I'm going to leave the link in the description below. I actually kind of like the design as well. And to get an SD card reader, do you know what? I want to test how fast is this card reader there. 2 seconds. So this card here is a V90 card. I'm going to plug this one in. Okay. And I want to see if we're getting UHS 2 speeds from this. Let's take a look. Nope. As you can see, it only is capped at 82 megabytes per second, which is not UHS 2 speeds, really. UHS 2 speeds would be getting over 200 megabytes per second, over 300 megabytes per second, because that's what this card can do. So unfortunately, that card reader is not the fastest, but at the same time, it's better to have that in there. And they have thought about creators, why you would have this one in there, which I'm liking a lot. So check this one out in the description below. And if you do want to build yourself the best bang for buck creator PC, perhaps not so small, but a little bit bigger, and want to save some money and want to know which are the best parts, then you can find the build guides in the description below. Whatever your budget is, there's one for you there. They're completely free. I'm saying this in the end of every video just so you know this. I know how helpful this information is. Check them out. They always lead you to the latest video. And if you also want to check out this monitor, I'm going to leave it in the description as well. Thanks guys for watching. Bye bye.